Hey, gang, it's Jeff, and welcome to our Tuesday night live stream. I am joined by our talented producer, Jill, who will be helping with the process here, asking all of the difficult questions. And I got to be honest with you, we got a lot of spicy questions, as my 22-year-old daughter would say. They came through today, and so I'm going to be jumping through some hoops, making sure that I get you the right answers. Just a couple of points before we get going. The state of New York does require us to read a disclaimer, so I'm going to read it. And that is, many of the questions we cover here are nuanced. We do our best to answer them, but our responses are meant to be directional, not exact. Your situation may require more details than we can give in a live stream. Therefore, this live stream is for educational purposes only. We haven't had the chance to speak with you one-on-one, so please treat this information as general guidance, not advice to act on. For anything specific to your situation, make sure you talk with a qualified professional. Speaking of qualified professionals, if you have questions about Medicare, give our trusted partner at Chapter a call, 440-703-1224, to see if they can help. I will put their number up right here so that you have it. All right, there we go. Having said that, I want to start off a little bit differently today because we've gotten quite a few questions over two different things that are happening in Congress. Normally, when we talk about what's happening in Congress, I don't spend a lot of time on it because, to be completely candid, what ends up happening is if you actually look at the notes, if you're ever bored sometime, just go to I think it's congress.gov or something like that, and they will tell you what is being introduced. And in any given week, there might be 30, 40, 50 different ideas that are put out there for consideration to see if they have any interest. It isn't a bill. It isn't even something being discussed. It's just an idea that gets put out. And in this list of things, there are things about Social Security. And it would be hard to not have a week where there's at least something new that is put out there regarding Social Security. But two things have stuck. And we've actually gotten a lot of questions by email, and I think there must be 8 different ways to contact us. So we see them coming through from 8 different I got to figure out how to consolidate those, but 8 different email addresses, as well as the website, as well as the channel, and also some other ways, some other creative ways as well. Some people have sent me messages on LinkedIn, believe it or not. And so I want to talk about the two that have come up a lot. And videos are being made of them. I'm probably not going to do one because neither one is actually at a point where I think we should do one, but I'll tell you what they are. We'll talk about them here. There are 2 different plans that are right in front of Congress right now. One is called the Social Security 2100 Act, which ironically looks like it's about 35 years of coverage before things need to get revisited again. So maybe it should be the 2167 Act. I don't know. Or the 2067 Act. And the other is the Promise Act. I'm going to tell you exactly what they are, and also highlight a point at the end, because both of them are actually really good things. Whether you agree with what's in them or not, what's happening with both of these is quite good. I'll tell you why in a moment. The Social Security 2100 Act is basically a proposal in a nutshell that gives better benefits to people. If you were to actually say, what does it do? It gives better benefits to people. It increases benefits for nearly everybody. And I'm just gonna go line by line here. Forgive me for reading, but I want to make sure that I get this right. It provides approximately a 2% increase in benefits for all current and future beneficiaries. So for someone receiving $2,000 a month, that's an extra $40 per month. And unlike a COLA increase, this would be a permanent increase as part of the calculation, just right off the bat. It increases the minimum benefit that someone can receive. And so a higher floor. It's a percentage of the poverty line. And so it increases as a percentage of the poverty line. So someone is further away from the poverty line. It increases the survivor benefits. It increases benefits for older retirees on the back half of their retirement. It changes the benchmark from the CPI-W benchmark, which is what we have now, to a CPI-E benchmark, which is reflective of how retirees really spend their money, more or less. And for those of you who don't know, COLA is based on the consumer price index, but not the big basket that you can. There are several different consumer price indexes. There's the big one that gets talked about, but then there are pieces of it, and you can take that data and you can split it any way you want. In fact, I think hedge funds probably do something like that. But one of them is CPI-W, and that W stands for urban wage earners and clerical workers. It's basically people who are working in the city who are either hourly, who have a high hourly wage, or have a clerical type of job. The problem with that is that these are people that spend money on things like family vacations or funding a child's education. And so it doesn't necessarily apply to the broader group of retirees. CPI-E has a much heavier slant towards basically medical care. And so this provision says, you know what, these benchmarks are different. We should really focus in on E, not W. There's quite a bit of, it's quite sensible. And actually, if you went back over time, and I did this at one point about 5 years ago, and you put them side by side, it was a dead even heat, a dead even outcome after 20 years. I would say over the last 5 years, CPI-E would give a better, there's a better representation of people that are in retirement. So CPI-E is something that would make a lot more sense. It also funds all of this by the thing that I've said before, which is that in order to fund any improvement in costs or fund the deficit in the fund past 2032, you need to raise taxes on people. There's just no way around it. And one way to do it is to do what they did back in 1983, and that's raise the Social Security tax from, in 1983, it was from 5.4% to 6.2%. The number they're talking about now is between 6.2% to 7.4%. So it is a bigger increase, and also tax Social Security beyond 400,000, or tax income beyond 400,000. This is an interesting one because it doesn't really speak about the other side of it, which is Social Security already reduces the payout of how someone gets paid. So if you are a modest earner, you get a very large portion of your contribution to Social Security back, maybe even more. If you're a high earner, the more you earn, the less of your contribution you get back, to the point where it's something like 15% of your base gets paid out to you on the top half of your earnings. And so you're contributing the same dollar amount on your earnings, but you're getting basically 1/6 of the, or 1/9 of the amount that the modest earner would be making on your contribution. So the discussion would be, what do you give somebody who's contributing at 400,000 plus? I don't know. And actually, the candidate's probably not going to be a game changer anyway to this. Now, on the flip side, there's what I think is the more likely start to something, and that's called the Promise Act. The challenge you have with the Social Security 2100 Act is that anytime you have a complete proposal, and this is largely, and this is a nonpartisan channel, so this isn't a comment about what's right and wrong, but it's largely left focused, Democratic focused in terms of the proposals. You're going to have opposition from the other side. And I could say the same thing if the Republicans came up with something. We're in a really polarizing political environment right now. And frankly, I can't see that ending anytime soon. So the other option is something called the Promise Act. Now this has promise, no pun intended, because it starts off the same way the solution to the 1983 problem started off. In 1983, we were faced with a very similar situation, and that is the trust fund was running out of money. In fact, when the amendments to the 1983 Act were signed into law, the trust fund had 2 months left. And so it was tight. It was really tight. And what happened was in 1981, the commission, the Social Security Commission, was created. It was a bipartisan commission led by Alan Greenspan before he became the chairman of the Fed. He was actually in private practice then, I believe. And their job wasn't to put something together. Their job wasn't to put a proposal out there and for everybody to fight over it, because that's the surest way to get gridlock. And that's why I say, whether you have a left-leaning or a right-leaning proposal, if you put your ideas out there, if they're not owned by everybody, it creates a problem. In 1981, the Greenspan Commission was put together, a bipartisan commission, and they came up with the solution for 1983, which was effectively raising the full retirement age from 65 to 67, but starting in the year 2000, 1 month a year for basically more or less 26 years. So next year we'll be in a situation where we finally hit the full retirement age of 67, but also increasing tax on payroll immediately from 5.4% to 6.2%. That solved the immediate problem. So the two together created a situation where we basically have been able to model out a full payout to 2032. Now you're saying, Jeff, what's the good news here? Well, the good news, and this is something I said before, and I firmly believe it now, which is once you get to the point where people are actually starting to put big ideas on the table and they're starting to get discussed, rather than the little ones that are just basically skirmishes between the political parties, all of a sudden you have something that has real momentum. It happened in 1981 with the Greenspan Commission. The Promise Act promises to be that as well. It doesn't actually increase benefits. It doesn't decrease benefits. It doesn't increase payroll taxes. It doesn't change the retirement age, and doesn't do anything except for say one thing. We know that there's an issue, and we want to start talking about it, and we want to bring people together in a bipartisan way, and we're going to form something that we're going to represent to our constituents. And because we're still 6 years out, this is a lot of runway. I think personally that the Social Security 2100 Act would face some headwinds if they just put it in for a vote today. I don't. First of all, you've got a lot of hurdles you have to get through. Second of all, you have to get signed off by the president. But the Promise Act allows people to work in a way that actually will get to an outcome, and I can promise you, again, no pun intended, that there will be an outcome that nobody likes. That's the nature of these types of commissions. There won't be, more than likely, there won't be huge wins for either side, but more than likely it'll also look a lot like what you see today, maybe with some rounding of the edges. And so that's my prediction. I can't promise it. Obviously, I'm not a politician. I don't vote. I don't have a crystal ball. But if you look at the history and you look at what worked in the past, that's the one that seems, at the moment anyway, to incorporate some teeth, a way forward when we're not in desperate times. Now, I've said historically on this live stream that if the future is anything like the past, the decision won't be made and the outcome won't be made in this presidency. In the last one, 1981 to 1983, that was 2 years out, and they started and came to a landing 2 months before things got really bad. So this is a long-winded way of saying I wouldn't spend a lot of time worrying about this, but it is evidence that things are starting to move forward. People are focusing their mind, as I knew they would, on an issue that's 6 years out. One thing that you can almost always count on when it comes to politics is that the issue, if it's not an immediate issue, it doesn't get dealt with today. But this is one that is starting to get talked about a little bit more frankly, outside of politics than inside of politics. A lot of think tanks are talking about it, but it's starting to become a discussion point, which is what we really want. You want the politicians to talk about it, and you also need to know that both political parties are aligned to protecting Social Security. They both said it's sacrosanct. So it's not like there's going to be, unless things drastically change, and I can't see how that would happen, it's not like there's going to be one political party that says, yeah, I want to kill Social Security, and another one says, we want to increase benefits by 200%. Both parties are sensible, more or less. So that's all I've got for you on this one, but it has come through so much that I think it was important that I actually get that data out there to you. Now, Jill, I will hand it over to you to lead the way.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Well, a lot of questions are starting to come in, of course. We look forward to taking your questions live on Social Security tonight. So please do keep putting them in the chat box. And we will also go back and forth with some of the emailed questions that came in today. And so as we transition from your updates, Jeff, I thought maybe we could start with a funny question that came in. And now I'm looking, from Rich Moser, that says, I wonder what Jeff does in the minute before a live stream. So
why don't you tell him, Jill, because I think it would be completely self-serving if I did it.
Oh, well, I guess it's not so funny that of what we do. We kind of get on and just kind of have some light banter, some conversation. We joke around, laugh a little bit, maybe even joke around about stuff. So it's kind of a relaxed moment, and we really look forward to this hour. So yeah, that's really what we're doing right before, and making sure the equipment works, of course. And
that's always, if you want to talk about a stressful situation, that's the stressful situation, because invariably I'm talking to the microphone and Jill isn't hearing me, or she's talking to the microphone and I'm not hearing her, and there's a switch that needs to be flipped. But once we figure that out, which is about 15 minutes before we go live, we kind of play around, joke around a bit, just talk about what each other did during the day. How was your day? And here's what I did, here's what you did, and then just have some fun. So nothing serious.
Yes. All right. But I thought that was a fun question. All right. So we will start with Shad Larry, and also Wild Bills would like the answer to this as well, which is, I just turned 62, but will hold off till 65 to file. Will I get the COLAs later this fall and each following year?
You will. So the cost of living adjustment is on top of your increase for waiting. And it is one of the most misunderstood things in Social Security, because people say, well, I only got a 5% increase, and inflation was 2.8%. So net I'm getting 2.2%. Well, no, it's, if there's a scheduled increase, you get that plus the cost of living adjustment on your future payment. So you're not losing your cost of living adjustment, you're getting it on top of that. So whether you claim early or you claim late, that payment gets the cost of living adjustment. The only difference is if you claim late, you also get the delayed claiming benefit as well.
All right. Keith is asking, I started Social Security at 62 only 3 months ago. And you guessed it, I want to go back. I'm bored. Can I fill out a form and mail the money back? Or do I fill out a form and they bill me?
I would say that you would fill out the form online, and then you send it in, and the the payment is due pretty quickly thereafter. You don't have to send it in with the payment, but you have to send it in a very short period of time after that. So I would assume, if I were you, I would assume the minute you fill that form out, you're going to owe the money. It's not going to be 6 months or 9 months later. It's going to be pretty quickly thereafter.
All right, an emailed question from Ellen. I've received conflicting information about my estimated Social Security benefit. One advisor said Social Security assumes I'll keep earning my current income until age 62. Another said it assumes I'll keep earning until I actually claim benefits. If I stop working at 67 but wait until 70 to claim, will my estimated benefit be lower than what's currently shown on my statement?
Yes, possibly. First of all, the second advisor is more accurate in their point. Your benefits assume that you continue to earn what you're earning today all the way up until the point where you claim. So you potentially could have a bit of a difference if these were your biggest earning years. If you had other earning years that were bigger and these would roll off for whatever reason, then maybe not. But the SSA assumes that when you file for Social Security, you're working up until the time you file. Now, strategy would say you have options. And one of those options is to retire today and claim in 8 years if you want, or 10 or 20 years if you want to retire before you're eligible for Social Security. There's no rule that says the two have to go hand in hand. And but I will say the closer you are to your actual claiming age when you retire, the more accurate that number is.
All right, Jay Coggs is asking, I was married for 15 plus years, divorced for 7, and remarried for 12. I'm 64 and my husband is 73. Am I eligible for spousal benefits?
If you are 64 now, spousal benefits or divorced spouse benefits, would you?
Am I eligible for spousal benefits? But she was married for 15 years and then divorced for 7, but now she is remarried for 12.
Yeah, you're eligible for spousal benefits on your current spouse's Social Security, more than likely, unless there's something unusual about your background that's not on there. You have to be married for a year, and then beyond that, you're eligible for spousal benefits. If you are over 60, then you'd have some different options. But when you remarried anyway, if you're over 60, you'd have some different options. But given that you're 64 now and you've been married for 12 years, yes, you're fine.
All right, Tony is asking, my wife and I plan to retire in 2 years when I'll be 66 and she'll be 64. Can she claim her own Social Security benefit at that point while I wait until 70 to claim mine and then switch to a spousal benefit on my record? Or would it make more sense for both of us to claim benefits as soon as we retire?
Well, claiming benefits and how you claim benefits are a personal choice. And let me explain to you what I'm talking about. And I'm going to show you the math behind the discussion. When you are thinking about claiming Social Security, whether it's your Social Security or the spousal benefit or the combined benefit, people used to have one question, which was, how do I get the maximum amount possible? That was the guiding light. Everybody focused in on it. The SSA had a break-even chart on their website. There was no other option, according to the discussions, the rhetoric of the day. But as time moved on and people did better financial planning, they realized that extracting every last dollar from Social Security might not be worth working 5 more years or 3 more years or 2 more years. Or they have some things that they want to do now in early retirement and they need the cash now, but they'll be fine in late retirement because they planned for that. So when you claim Social Security isn't necessarily dependent on maximizing every dollar so much as what is in your life that you're trying to maximize for. If you want to maximize for the survivor benefit, well, you probably want to wait until you're 70 or closer to 70. If you want to enjoy early retirement, well, then you might want to claim early. If you have a big windfall coming in a couple of years, maybe you want to claim early. I don't know. It depends on your specific situation. But your specific question, assuming that what you're asking is, how do I maximize dollars, is an interesting one. If your wife has her own Social Security benefit, and I'm going to use age 62 and age 67 instead of 64 and 70, or 68 and 70, or 66 and 70, depending on how you read the question. If you claim Social Security, let's say your Social Security payment was $1,000 a month at full retirement age, but you claimed early. Well, you get 70% of that if your full retirement age was age 67, so you get $700. But if the spousal benefit was $1,500, why wouldn't you claim your own benefit at 62, let's say, for $700, wait until you reach 67, and then claim the spousal benefit, assuming that that's when your partner actually did file for Social Security, because your partner has to file for Social Security before you can claim the spousal benefit. Well, what ends up happening is your own Social Security payment was haircut by $300. So when your partner reaches full retirement age and files for Social Security, that means that you are entitled to that $1,500 spousal benefit, less what you would have received more, or less the discount you took on your own benefit, more or less. So instead of $1,500, it's approximately $1,200. It's crude math, but it should give you an idea of the direction, which is you can't just claim the spousal benefit and then get a full. You can't just claim your own benefit and get a full spousal benefit in a few years, unless they're very close in terms of their size, or if there was a reason. Well, really, that there isn't even a reason. You don't have to have a reason to claim one versus the other. Usually when you claim one and then switch to the other, it's because the other is larger, and that other would be reduced by a proportion of the amount that you would have received had you waited on your own benefit, or on her own benefit.
All right, next question comes from Miller Laura J. And she says, I'm 69 years old and waiting till 70 to collect Social Security. I'm not sure how to find out how much my Social Security will be. I'm receiving Social Security widow's survivor benefits and not seeing what I would get.
Okay. Go to ssa.gov, and if you don't have an account there, then sign up for your My Social Security. It's 10 minutes of work, and you'll have all the data right in front of you. You'll see what your benefit is, and you'll see what your survivor benefit is currently. But it's literally that easy. It's a lot like signing up for a subscription for your bank or something like that. It's probably a little bit more difficult than a newsletter subscription, but it's probably no harder than logging onto your bank account for the first time. It's pretty simple, and it's right there.
All right, George Manson is asking a question. He is a retired special ed teacher with a pension. His full retirement age is 67. The goal is to wait for Social Security. He's asking you to touch on the requirement to start Medicare at 65 versus not starting Social Security at the same time. How does that work?
So this is a really important question. The only tie-in that Social Security has with Medicare is that if you're on Social Security, by default, Medicare will take your Part B premium out of your Social Security payment. But you're not required to take Social Security early to fund Medicare. You can wait to claim Social Security and just pay your Medicare payment directly. Set up an auto pay just so you don't miss it, because you don't want to miss your Medicare. You don't want to go into default with Medicare in terms of the amount of money that you owe them. But they aren't tied together outside of that. So if I understand the question correctly, you can continue to wait to claim Social Security to the age that is best for you, and claim Medicare at the time that you're supposed to claim it.
Okay, yeah, and there was some conversation in the chat box about it, and he was clarifying to others that, questioning, would I have them take it out, and I think referring to Medicare, take Medicare out of an account of mine until I claim Social Security?
I would have them directly debit your account. Yes, you don't want to be in a situation where you're writing them a check, and either you forgot to sweep something that day and the check bounced, or you just plain forgot. You thought you sent it and you didn't. A direct withdrawal is the best way to go.
Okay, great. So, and Wes Moff was asking for clarification on that too. So hopefully for both of you, that was now clarified. All right. So Doc J is asking, if my wife, lower earner, claims early and I wait until 70, higher earner with full retirement age of 67, how is her benefit affected when she reaches full retirement age?
If the question is about the spousal benefit, the spousal benefit is independent of your benefit in terms of the size. Your spouse will get up to 50% of your benefit based on their own retirement age. If they file for the spousal benefit at full retirement age, then get up to 50%. Now, the proviso to that, the caveat to that, is that you have to have filed for your own benefit first, and then the spousal benefit is activated. If you don't file for your own benefit, your spouse can't receive the spousal benefit. So if you wait until 70, and did we get the age difference of the two in the question, Jill?
Let's see. If my wife, lower earner, claims early and I wait until 70, higher earner with full retirement age of 67. No, I do not see what her age is. How is her benefit affected?
She can claim her own Social Security payment whenever she wants, but in order to get the spousal benefit, you have to have filed your benefit. And remember what we talked about earlier, that if she claims early and she has a reduction in her benefit by a certain dollar amount, that approximate dollar amount will be what comes off of the full spousal benefit later.
Okay, yeah. The concluding question is then, how is her benefit affected when she actually does reach full retirement age?
The example I used earlier, if her benefit's $1,000, but she claimed at 62 and it's $700, she has a $300 reduction, and then at full retirement age, she applies for the spousal benefit that would have been $1,500, would be approximately $1,200, more or less. That's the rough math. Very rough, but that's directionally, that's how you should think about it.
All right. John emailed a question. He's asking, my wife and I are both 63 and our full retirement age is 67. We have about 1.2 million in IRAs and 401ks. With the Social Security Trust Fund projected to face funding shortfalls in the early 2030s, should we consider claiming benefits early, or should we use our retirement savings and delay claiming?
So this is probably a good reflection of the comment or the discussion we had at the beginning of the live stream, which talked about the two competing pieces of legislation that are under consideration right now. And I can't advise you that the 2032 outcome is ironclad going to get fixed, but I think it's highly likely it's going to get fixed. And you can already see it with what's happening with the Promise Act and Social Security 2100. So if I were thinking about what I wanted to do, the claiming early to get get a few extra payments or to get some extra payments probably wouldn't come into effect. So that's something that if you're worried about it, I would read up on it and read up on both the Social Security 2100 legislation and also the Promise Act, and also look back what happened in 1983. That'll give you a much clearer picture of the likely outcome here.
All right. Welcome back, Tony Monero. He has a question for
Love
you.
that. I love that. Sorry, go ahead.
A nice reminder of Saturday Night Fever. How would you model the accrual liability of Social Security Administration of a person who is to receive X dollars at any age, 62 to 70, and assume Medicare lifespan 84 men and 86 women, and assume 3% COLA?
Sorry, what's the question, Jill?
How would you model the accrual liability of Social Security of a person who's going to receive any amount of dollars at any age, age 62 to 70, assuming the lifespan of 84 for men and 86 of women, and that their COLA is 3%?
Well, I think you're asking about the break-even calculation. Accrual liability is an accounting term, and it's not really used in the Social Security Administration, even though I'm an accountant and I know what an accrual liability is. So if you're asking about the break-even calculation, I would say that there's a defined schedule. It doesn't actually change, and just you can Google the break-even calculation and you'll see a chart, and it's the same chart that's been up there for everybody, assuming you can look at a different assumed full retirement ages, but the one that you'll see most often is age 67. A 3% cost of living adjustment on top of that, and I'm just doing this in my head, but it really shouldn't change the outcome on that chart. And the reason is because if you're assuming that it's distributed evenly, well, then the unclaimed Social Security and the claimed Social Security would both get the 3% increase. And so I wouldn't see a big distinction in that chart. Now, I haven't done the math, so just assume that directionally that's probably the right answer. But if you're trying to model it out yourself, keep in mind that when you model it out, you're modeling out the fact that unclaimed and claimed Social Security get the same cost of living adjustment.
All right. From what you were talking about at the beginning, Sarah Jane is asking, she wants your best guess. For any legislative cuts to Social Security benefits, do you perceive a cut to apply to those already receiving benefits or to those who apply after cuts go into effect?
Well, my best guess is that there isn't going to be cuts. That's my best guess. So it's hard to answer a question when when you're framing it in a way that doesn't really. I don't think it's the most likely outcome. I think that because that isn't defined, then you really don't have an answer to the question, because the current legislation, the way that it's written, if nobody did anything, it doesn't say, well, we're only going to cut benefits to those people that are receiving Social Security or those that aren't receiving Social Security. It's not that defined. So my best guess is that there will be something that gets fixed between now and 2032.
All right. Catherine emailed in a question. She says, my husband is 12 years older than I am and is already collecting Social Security. Our retirement benefits are about the same. Would it make sense for me to claim my own benefit early, knowing I may later switch to a survivor benefit if he passes away before I do?
Potentially. I thought the question was going in a different direction, but if you and your husband both have approximately the same Social Security benefit, then, and you're comparing your benefit to the survivor benefit, the survivor benefit I keep saying this, it's a wonderful benefit in many ways, because if you look at Social Security, most of the benefits out there have a if this, then that, or a but, and that usually costs something. If you claim at 65 instead of 66, then you lose a portion of your Social Security payment. It goes down. Or if you claim your own benefit and then you later switch to the spousal benefit, well, then there's a haircut on spousal benefit in many cases. The survivor benefit must have been designed by somebody who was really passionate about this, because it doesn't have a lot of the rules that you would expect to see. If you look at the body of Social Security rules, that are the rounding, it rounds up. And what do I mean by that? If you claim your own benefit and you later switch to the survivor benefit, well, the survivor benefit is independent, meaning that it is only, the size of the survivor benefit is only judged based on your age when you claim the survivor benefit. If you claim it at full retirement age, then you get your partner's payment. If you claim it before full retirement age, then it's reduced. If your partner didn't file for Social Security and they passed away before they filed, well, then Social Security automatically assumes that they were at full retirement age. So they give you the benefit of the doubt there. They round up. If they were at 68, 69, 70, well, then they give you the benefit of the doubt there, and they assume that the date that they passed is the date that they would have started Social Security. If they actually claim Social Security at 67, 68, 69, 70, that becomes the base, and that's adjusted based on your age. So in many cases, it makes sense to claim your own benefit. The only thing, if you hadn't told me that you were 12 years difference in age, I would say the one thing to consider is that if you take the survivor benefit first, you can let your own Social Security payment grow. But given the age difference, I think that would be an unlikely outcome. So potentially it makes sense.
All right, great. So Wild One Bills is asking, I worked in Canada for 4 years. I know the US and Canada has an agreement that says I will get credit here in the USA for the money that was paid to Canada. When will this show up in my Social Security estimate?
No, and for those of you who don't know, there are, I think it's 37 countries. The US has an arrangement where if you pay into the local equivalent of Social Security, it might be a lower number than that. If you pay into the local equivalent of Social Security, it's as if you paid into Social Security here, or similar anyway. And a lot of times it's expats who move to Canada or move to Australia is a good example, where they have to pay the local Social Security payment. And the US isn't alone in Social Security. A lot of countries have it. And so the quid pro quo is it works the other way around. And so if you're in Canada and you move to the US for a period of time and you're paying into Social Security here, in most cases anyway, that counts towards the local Social Security equivalent. So, but it's not visible to the SSA the way that your payments are to local offices here. And so it's something that you need to nudge on if you're not seeing it. And so if you're back in the US and you're done working in Canada, or if you're in the process of claiming Social Security and you don't see that adjustment, call the SSA, talk to the SSA. You have to be on hold for a while, but it's worth a conversation just to make sure that they know that that's sitting out there somewhere, because it's anytime you have to do something manually, whether you're talking about special ordering at a restaurant because of allergies, or you're talking about dealing with the Social Security Administration, you're taking it out of process. When you take something out of process, you can get there. You'll eventually get there, but it takes more work and more focus. And so just have the discussion with the SSA, tell them, bring your data with you, and ask them to give you an estimate of what impact that will have on your payment.
All right. So going back, when Jay Coggs had asked about, he was married for 15 plus years, divorced for 7, and remarried for 12 years. That question. And she's 64 and husband is 73. Is she eligible for spousal benefits? Which you answered. But Penelope was asking, related to that, she was assuming that Jay Coggs was asking if she was eligible for divorce spouse benefits from the first husband, and then would the remarriage have negated those divorced spousal benefits?
If you're under 60 years old, and yes, more than likely. I don't want to give you a definitive 100%, but yes, because what ends up happening is when you remarry and you're under 60 years old, then the benefits that you would have been receiving now transfer to your new spouse, and so that is something that you, unfortunately, it's one of those weird glitches, to be candid. Now, if you never remarried, then that's not the case, but you can claim Social Security as the spouse benefit is in most cases as early as age 62. So there's a lot of time for people to remarry before they even become eligible for a spousal benefit. But if you haven't remarried, then the divorce spouse benefit still holds.
Okay. Michael Catalino is asking, both my wife and I have qualified for full benefits. I logged into my Social Security website and got reports on what we would receive through 70. Do these amounts already estimate COLA increase?
No, they don't. The COLA increase can't be estimated because nobody knows. You can make a statement by the SSA can say, you know what, we're going to assume that you're going to continue to earn what you're earning now. Factually, it's probably right half the time, maybe, I don't know, 2/3 of the time. But at the beginning of this year, people thought the cost of living adjustment was going to go down. Now it's pretty clear that it's going to go up, but nobody knows. And so they can't incorporate a COLA adjustment into the number. So your number is, as of today, it's in finance terms, it's the present value of what your payment would be in the future, not the future value.
Okay, great. SH 2026 is asking, I'm retiring next February from the railroad at age 70. Been there for the last 10 years. What's the ratio of railroad pension versus Social Security? Is working to 70 helping my Social Security even though I'm at the railroad the last 10 years?
I think you got to this is probably more than a 2-minute conversation because a lot of it has to do with what you're contributing to Social Security. Send me that question in the live stream at holyschmidt.com, and I'll come back to you with a couple of questions and give you a better answer than it depends on whether you contributed to Social Security or not.
All right, great. So let's also then take from email. Catherine had a second question, which was, given Social Security's long-term funding issues, should retirees reduce the amount of Social Security income they include in their retirement plans?
I wouldn't. Sorry, let me rephrase. If it were me, I wouldn't, because I think like anything, it's going to be, people are going to focus on it. They're going to deal with it. You can see that it's already happening. It depends on your comfort level with that, though. There's no rule that says you can't do that and then have a pleasant upside surprise, though.
Okay. Nancy, I see something in the chat box, but I'm not seeing the question. So maybe I will continue scrolling down to find the question. But let's take this question from Laura. When should I start the Social Security application process, and who should I contact?
You can start it as early as 4 months before you claim. Most people start at 3. You You can do it right online, ssa.gov, log into My Social Security. There's a button there, and it says something like apply for benefits, and then you're off. Now, it's pretty automatic in terms of the process. It doesn't, most of the time, you just hit that button, answer some questions, and then it happens automatically. Occasionally, they'll ask for more information, and this scares people. But it shouldn't scare people, but you should be aware of when it happens. It happens oftentimes when there are two people using your Social Security number. So if your Social Security number was in a data leak and it became the Social Security number that's being used by somebody else to gain employment, well, now you got somebody who's working in California and somebody who's working in Massachusetts, and they're not the same somebody. And so the information is confused. People are confused. They don't understand how that can happen. Rightfully so. The SSA is confused. So they'll ask for additional information. Or if there's a name change and they're trying to reconcile why the names are similar, but they're not exact. There are a lot of reasons that it would happen. None of them are nefarious. Nobody's doing anything to try to get you. They just need to clear up a check the box issue. And while it may sound scary that someone got a hold of your Social Security number and was using it for employment, it is far, far less likely that they're actually going to try to claim your Social Security payment. That's the fastest way to actually get caught. So I would say just answer the questions if you're in a situation where that happens, and they'll clear it up long before you're supposed to receive your Social Security payment.
Okay. Simply Blues is asking, I started drawing Social Security at 70 this year. If my wife starts drawing her benefits at 62, will there be a reduction in survivor benefits when I pass away, or does that higher amount stay the same?
The two aren't linked. The survivor benefit we talked about this a little bit earlier. The survivor benefit is not the spousal benefit. So the size of the survivor benefit is based on the actual amount that the survivor was receiving or should have received if they passed before filing, rounded up if they passed before full retirement age, the full retirement age amount, or at their date of passing, had they not filed, haircut by the age of the spouse. So I have a really handy guide. It's called the Social Security Quick Guide, and it has the spousal benefit and the survivor benefit chart side by side. It looks like this. And right here is the primary benefit. This is the spousal benefit in terms of the claiming age, and this is the survivor benefit. And while you can't see it here, they all converge at full retirement age to the maximum possible benefit. So if your full retirement age is age 67, then you can get 100% of the survivor benefit if you file for the survivor benefit at age 67. There's no benefit for waiting past age 67. It won't go up past then. And the same thing with the spousal benefit. You can't get more than the maximum spousal benefit past age 67. The only benefit that increases beyond full retirement age is your own primary insurance amount. If you'd like a copy of this, you can go to holyschmidt.com/quick guide, and you can get this instantly. You'll also be put on our list and get tips, tricks, and other information a couple of times a week. It's a wonderful document, and the emails are quite helpful. Of course, you can unsubscribe at any time. There's no commitment there.
Okay, great. And for anyone that would like to get access to the Social Security Quick Guide, I have put that link, holyschmidt.com/quick guide, into the chat box, so everyone has access to that. Okay, Cutting Tool Designer has a question. Max earning amount is currently $24,480 if you retire early. Is that based on gross, adjusted gross, or net income?
That's your AGI. And if you go beyond $24,480, you have to give $1 back for every 2. in your first year, it's broken down to a monthly calculation, and that's $2,040 a month.
Okay. MK Mariak is asking, retiring at full retirement age, will Bolden help me decide whether to wait to collect Social Security?
Bolden is one of my this is funny. I love Bolden, by the way. I personally use Bolden's financial planning software. It's fantastic. A little side story before I answer this. We get approached maybe even 25 times a week now. It used to be 25 times a month, 25 times a week with affiliates, companies that want to do business with us and pitch their products. And we only have 3, and we've had the same 3 for a long time. And the reason is because we really need to believe in the company to represent them to you. Otherwise, we'd be talking about Bitcoin and stuff like that. Well, Bolden and Chapter is the other one, by the way, that we just super believe in these companies. But Bolden was software I was using before I even really started doing this full time, which is in 2024. I was a banker. For those of you who don't know my story, I was a banker for 25 years. And at 25 years and like a couple of days, I had reached my 25-year mark. And I said, you know what, this is probably a good time. And so I went from having a part-time way to help people to a full-time offering. But I'd been using Bolden. And so I called Bolden and I said, I've been using your software for a long time, and I'd love to represent you to our viewers. I think at the time we might have had less than 300,000 subscribers. And it was a good conversation. It was quick. They agreed to it. And here we are today. And so now you see Bolden and Chapter everywhere because we just feel very, very good about them, putting them in front of you. Bolden has a lot of different options. One is to model out everything from Social Security decisions to Roth decisions. There are 8 different scenarios you can plan. Maybe it's 10, something like that. I've only used a couple of them, but the options are, I don't want to say they're limitless, but it's you should try the free 2 weeks. Bolden will allow you to use their full featured software free using our affiliate code, and it is go.bolden.com/Schmidt. Go.bolden.com/Schmidt, and you can try their full featured software free for 2 weeks. And after that, if you want to keep it, it's $12 a month paid annually, so about $144 a year.
Okay. So you had answered a question for George Manson, the retired special ed teacher with a pension, full retirement age 67, goals to wait for Social Security. And he wanted you to touch on the requirement to start Medicare at 65 versus not starting Social Security at the same time. How would that work? Which you answered well. And so he thanked you for that. But there's been a lot of conversation amongst many about, let's see, wait, where does it go on? About, he mentions, so based on how you would answer that question, he's working on little items and jobs to increase liquidity. He says, is this going to mess up my Social Security? What I am earning now is nowhere near my top 35. So he's curious about the top 35 and concerned about the top 35.
Well, it's the top 35. So if you earn less, they won't drag you down. The only thing I would say is that your projected payment is based on your current earnings. And so if you haven't filed for Social Security, then understand, and there's a bit of nuance to this, because if you just switch jobs and now you're not earning as much as you were last year, then this probably doesn't apply. But it's your best 35. It's not your most recent 35. So you're okay there.
Okay, because he said he currently has the ability to match or overtake his current pension, but I am terrified to mess up the top 35 or my IRMA. Have seriously considered taking another teaching contract.
I'd be worried about the IRMA. Your top 35, that's your top 35. and they're not going to take that away from you. You could work for 60 years, and 35 of those would be right in the middle, and you'll get those 35. The IRMA surcharge, though, is a different beast altogether, and this is one that catches everybody off guard. And for those of you who don't know, IRMA stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, and it's a surcharge basically. And the more you earn, the more likely it is you're going to pay a surcharge on your Medicare Part B premium. In 2026, it's $109,000 if you're single, and it's $218,000 if you're married filing jointly. But it's not based on your current year's income; it's based on those numbers in 2024. And so, if you're trying to manage of the two things, manage the IRMA, that's the one you really want to be careful with.
Okay. And when MK Mariak had the Bolden question, she just was wondering, did I miss if he said it would help me determine it? Let's see, what was she wanting it to determine?
I think when to take Social Security. Is that the question?
Now are you, I'm trying to go back. Retiring at full retirement age. Oh, will Bolden help me decide whether to wait to collect Social Security?
You can put that in as a what if scenario, and they can help you model that out. It's not gonna be a flashing red neon light saying wait, but you can put it in there, and you can start. And the reason is because a lot of these Social Security calculators, and I think we're over time, a lot of these Social Security calculators don't just ask you about the dollar amount, they ask you about lifestyle, which is what we talked about earlier. And so this is something you need to think about. They do have a really cool AI feature, which is getting closer to the independent Social Security calculator. But it'll give you an accurate answer, but it's not going to ask you all of the questions related to your health and all the rest of that, as opposed to for your Social Security payment.
All right. Well, we are over on time. It is 8:02, so we apologize for going over. Thank you so much for all of your questions. For anyone that was interested in the information Jeff was just giving you on Bolden, I did put the link if you're interested in a 2-week free trial. So, Jeff, I will turn it back over to you.
Gang, it was great seeing you virtually anyway tonight, and thanks for staying up for us with us, especially if you're approaching the East Coast or on the East Coast. It's 8 p.m. your time, and we really appreciate that. Jill, thank you for your expert guidance through the hour. And as I said on the last live stream, now that I'm back and fully focused, you're going to see us pretty much every Tuesday between now and the end of December. With rare exception, I can't think of anything, but certainly there's probably something in there. But vacations are done, and so we're going to be locked and loaded for the next 30 weeks. All right, gang, I think that's a wrap, and we will see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Thanks, Jill. Thanks, everybody.